Quantum AI has just unlocked a hidden language in the Olmec symbols.
For thousands of years, the Olmec left behind symbols no one could read. Archaeologists debated their meaning, dismissing them as ceremonial. Now, quantum AI has pierced that silence, revealing patterns so precise they defy human logic. Could this be a form of knowledge far older, far stranger than anyone imagined? The implications are staggering. A civilization that encoded science, astronomy, and environmental mastery centuries before written history. What the Olmec knew and why may rewrite everything we thought we understood about ancient America. The pattern decoded by AI. Researchers have been in a controlled panic since an AI detected a recurring spiral symbol across multiple Olmec sites. At first, the spirals seemed ordinary. After all, spirals are common in ancient art. But this one was different. Its shape mirrors the structure of DNA, a molecule the Olmecs, who lived between 1500 and 400 BCE, could not have known about. The double helix wouldn't be discovered until 1953 by Watson and Crick, a gap of roughly 2,400 years. The coincidence alone stunned the team. The AI did more than just recognize the shape. It mapped the spiral across dozens of artifacts from La Venta, San Lorenzo, and Tres Zapotes, major Olmec cities. The pattern was far from random. The spiral consistently appeared in contexts linked to growth, agriculture, and what researchers call farming family lines. It was always paired with numbers, measurements, and marks, suggesting careful tracking of changes across generations of plants. One researcher, speaking on condition of anonymity, said they initially thought the AI had made a mistake. But the pattern persisted. The spiral appears alongside markings that track generational changes, almost like detailed crop breeding programs. Breeding programs are systematic methods for recording how traits are inherited from parent to offspring. Farmers observe which combinations produce the best results and record data over many seasons. In this sense, the Olmecs may have been documenting crop management and plant selection centuries before such practices became common elsewhere. Independent sources with access to specialized forums confirmed that the AI identified at least 47 instances in the spiral that align with what appear to be harvest predictions. These included crop types, yields, growth cycles, and success rates. For an ancient civilization, this level of record-keeping is exceptional. The AI's analysis also revealed another symbol that has reshaped our understanding of Olmec engineering: a stepped triangle enclosed within a circle. This symbol appears repeatedly around La Venta, the civilization's largest temple complex. Heat maps generated by the AI show that the symbols cluster near basalt quarries, where the Olmecs quarried blocks weighing up to 50 tons and transported them over 100 kilometers. Evidence of advanced organization and logistics previously underestimated. Even more striking, the symbol appears near natural geothermal features, such as hot springs, volcanic zones, and areas of underground heat. One sequence the AI interpreted depicts a sun serpent cracking open the Earth every 52 seasons. Initially thought to be mythological, the researchers ran the numbers. 52 seasons equal roughly 13 years. Venus completes a repeating cycle every 584 days. 5 of these cycles equal about 8 years. Combined, they form a 13-year rhythm, later shown in the Maya long count calendar. This suggests the Olmecs were tracking celestial patterns with remarkable precision, centuries before the Maya formalized their calendar. Other symbols align with solstices and lunar eclipses. When the AI compared them to historical sky data, the match rate was 94.7%. Suggesting the carvings were observational records rather than ritualistic art. A coiled spiral appears across distant Olmec sites, including San Lorenzo, La Venta, and Laguna de los Cerros, consistently paired with directional markers and numerical tallies. Soil analysis at these sites shows high concentrations of magnetite and iron oxide, hinting that the carvings may have indicated resource-rich zones. Aside from the spirals and solar markers, the AI also identified a different type of symbol that has researchers working under extreme security. Dubbed the gate symbol, It is a stepped frame enclosing curved sun arcs, repeated precisely across carved pillars, polished jade figurines, and clay vessel fragments. Unlike the spirals, which tracked agricultural cycles and celestial patterns, this glyph appeared consistently alongside directional markers, suggesting it encoded navigation and location data rather than seasonal or farming information. Recognizing a pattern, researchers fed these coordinates into a mapping system aligned with known Olmec sites. Using LiDAR, they uncovered a previously undocumented ridge formation deep in the jungles of Tabasco State, about 37 kilometers east-southeast of La Venta. From above, the area looked like ordinary rolling hills, but LiDAR scans revealed straight alignments, right-angled platforms, and linear structures invisible to the naked eye. Ground-penetrating radar confirmed massive buried formations extending at least 15 meters underground. Analysis showed that the gate symbol wasn't a random decoration. It contained tiny seasonal and solar indicators that, when mapped to the site, created a solar calendar built from earth and stone. Preliminary surveys suggest the complex covers nearly 12 hectares, roughly the size of 17 football fields, rivaling La Venta itself. Early excavation samples date the activity to between 1,200 and 800 BCE, centuries before La Venta's peak, making this possibly the earliest monumental construction in Mesoamerica. The key to discovering this hidden complex lies in the gate symbol, which appears on 11 artifacts in museums across Mexico City, Villahermosa, and Yale's Peabody Museum. Since its discovery, curators have re-examined every artifact carrying the glyph. 3 additional pieces were identified, each with unique directional markers that may point to other hidden locations. Together, these findings show that the Olmecs not only built monumental architecture, but also developed a sophisticated system of symbols for navigation, astronomy, and site coordination. The AI's work highlights their deep understanding of land, resources, and celestial patterns, revealing a complexity that continues to challenge archaeologists and historians. Beyond the spirals, solar markers, and gate glyphs decoded by quantum AI, the Olmecs left another long-standing mystery. The colossal heads, monuments of power and mystery. 17 massive stone heads, each weighing up to 50 tons, sit in the jungles of Mexico's Gulf Coast. Carved over 2,000 years ago with nothing but stone tools, they represent individual rulers, and they might be the most sophisticated sculptures created anywhere in the ancient Americas. With full lips, flattened noses, slightly crossed eyes, and imposing helmet-like headgear, these faces have fueled speculation since their discovery. Early observers even suggested that the figures resembled people from Africa, with some claiming a specific resemblance to Ethiopians. While such interpretations remain controversial and unsupported by evidence, they underscore the lasting mystery surrounding these sculptures. The story of the colossal heads begins in 1862, when Mexican scholar José María Melgari Serrano uncovered the first known example at Tres Zapotes. At the time, the discovery attracted little attention outside Mexico and was largely forgotten by the international academic community. For decades, the head stood as an isolated curiosity rather than evidence of a major ancient civilization. That changed dramatically in 1938, when American ethnologist Matthew Stirling began systematic research into Mesoamerican cultures. Stirling revisited earlier discoveries and launched new excavations along the Gulf Coast of Mexico. During one of these expeditions in the late 1930s, his team uncovered a towering stone head weighing roughly 20 tons. The sculpture displayed unmistakably human features and appeared to represent the ancient inhabitants of the Gulf Coast region. This discovery drew widespread media attention and transformed Stirling's career. The public interest helped him secure funding, time, and institutional support, including a partnership with National Geographic, allowing him to expand his research farther south along the coast. His work marked a turning point in the study of early Mesoamerican civilizations. While working at Tres Zapotes, Stirling made another critical discovery: Stela C, a fractured basalt monument bearing a distinctive Olmec carving. The image, interpreted either as an abstract or jaguar figure or a ruler seated on a throne, forced Stirling and his team to reconsider the age of the civilization itself. If the stela was as old as it appeared, then the colossal heads were likely far older than scholars had assumed. Dating the monuments precisely was impossible at the time. In the 1930s, radiocarbon dating did not yet exist, leaving archaeologists without a reliable method to determine when the basalt had been carved. Researchers relied instead on indirect methods such as stratigraphy and limited dendrochronology, which could not provide firm conclusions. Encouraged by his early success, Stirling launched further excavations with a small but dedicated team that included his wife, Marion Stirling, and archaeologist Philip Drucker. Together they identified and documented several additional colossal heads. These efforts laid the groundwork for what is now known: 17 confirmed Olmec heads spread across the Gulf Coast from Tres Zapotes to San Lorenzo, where 10 were eventually found. As the number of known heads grew, scholars began to interpret their purpose more clearly. Placing the sculptures within the broader Olmec cultural context suggested that they represented high-status individuals, likely rulers, military leaders, or religious authorities. This interpretation aligns with a long-standing human tradition of commemorating influential figures through monumental art tied closely to land, ancestry, and political authority. Over time, improved research methods allowed scholars to examine the heads in greater detail. The helmet-like headgear became a central focus. Its resemblance to protective helmets suggested authority, rank, or ceremonial power. Researchers also observed that each head carried distinct design elements, indicating that the headgear served as personal insignia rather than shared symbols. Crucially, no two heads are identical. Variations in facial features, expressions, and headgear strongly suggest that each sculpture represents a different individual. The differences imply a society with multiple leaders of varying rank and influence, rather than a single archetypal figure repeated across sites. Because the colossal heads are too massive to move safely, researchers turn to three-dimensional imaging to study them in detail. Using structured light scanning and laser mapping, archaeologists created precise digital models of each sculpture. This approach allowed scholars to rotate, measure, and compare the heads without physical contact. Digitization transformed Olmec studies. The scans revealed subtle features that had previously gone unnoticed, including small, deliberately placed holes in the basalt. These may represent freckles or symbolic markings, though their meaning remains uncertain. The precision of the holes raised further questions about the tools and techniques used to create them. Three-dimensional laser scanning has allowed researchers to study the heads without physical contact. The scans reveal details invisible to the naked eye, deliberate indentations that may represent scarification marks, subtle asymmetries in facial features confirming each head depicts a different individual, and evidence of the sophisticated stoneworking techniques used to create them. Creating a colossal head required extraordinary organization. Scholar David Grove emphasized that quarrying, transporting, and carving the stones demanded multiple specialist groups, laborers, boatmen, sculptors, woodworkers, and toolmakers, supported by a broader population providing food, housing, and logistics. Seasonal river levels, agricultural cycles, and labor availability meant that producing a single head could take years. Basalt workshops at San Lorenzo and La Venta reveal the Olmecs' meticulous methods. Sculptors shaped the heads by chipping flakes with hammerstones, refined forms through retouching, and polished surfaces using abrasives. Some hammerstones were made from the same basalt as the monuments, while others were imported, showing trade and resource planning. All 17 heads were carved from basalt sourced in the Sierra de los Tuxtlas Mountains of Veracruz. Large boulders deposited by ancient volcanic flows were often selected instead of quarried blocks, simplifying production. Transporting these stones over hundreds of kilometers required advanced logistics. The La Cobata head, for example, came from Elvigia Hill, while others were sourced from the same volcanic region. The heads range from 1.47 to 3.4 meters tall and weigh between 6 and 50 tons. Many have flat backs, likely showing the original boulder shape, transport needs, or reworking from earlier monuments. 2 San Lorenzo heads retain niches from former thrones, confirming monumental reuse. Headdresses vary widely. Some depict cloth or animal skins. Others include knots, feathers, or animal imagery. The Leventa head features a bird motif, possibly a ceremonial one. Similar designs may indicate dynastic rank or political status. Large ear spools emphasize elite identity. Traces of plaster and pigment show that the heads were once brightly painted. Dating remains uncertain, but production likely spanned 50 to 200 years, beginning before 900 BCE. All belong to the pre-classic period, with San Lorenzo representing the earliest phase. The colossal heads led researchers straight to their creators, and the deeper they looked, the more unsettling the truth became. Who really were the Olmecs? The Olmec civilization developed in the lowlands of southeastern Mexico between 1500 and 400 BCE. Their heartland spans the Gulf Coast in Veracruz and Tabasco, covering roughly 275 kilometers east to west and 100 kilometers inland. The Olmecs were among the first in the Americas to build monumental architecture, establish towns and cities, and develop a sophisticated style of stone sculpture. In the early 2000 years, evidence of Olmec writing emerged. The earliest hieroglyphs date to around 650 BCE and are found on roller stamps and stone artifacts. While the texts are short and only partially deciphered, they suggest the Olmecs had a form of record-keeping similar to later Mesoamerican scripts. This complexity has led some scholars to call the Olmecs the mother culture of Mesoamerica, though the idea remains debated. The city of San Lorenzo served as the Olmecs' first major center around 1200 and 900 BCE, later succeeded by Leventa around 900 BCE, with Tres Zapotes and Laguna de los Cerros as smaller urban centers. San Lorenzo predates both the Maya and Aztec civilizations. Excavations have uncovered jade figurines, celts, and various pottery styles, revealing robust trade networks, artistic expression, and daily life. Large platforms and elite residences indicate a highly organized society capable of mobilizing substantial labor. The city's layout, with a central axis and distinct ceremonial and residential areas, shows thoughtful planning and social hierarchy. In the 1950s, attention turned to Leventa in Tabasco, Mexico. Archaeologists like Philip Drucker and Robert Heiser applied advanced interdisciplinary methods to explore the site. Leventa thrived between 1 and 400 BCE during the peak of Olmec culture. The city demonstrates remarkable achievements in architecture, art, and urban planning, setting precedents for later Mesoamerican civilizations. The Great Pyramid at Leventa is a conical structure of earth and clay, unlike later pyramids elsewhere in Mesoamerica. Its design and alignment with celestial bodies reveal the Olmecs' advanced engineering and astronomical knowledge. Leventa also yielded colossal basalt heads, altars with intricate carvings, and complex burial sites, including serpentine mosaics, evidence of their religious beliefs, social organization, and artistic skill. Preserving Leventa remains challenging due to the tropical climate and human activity, but ongoing research and conservation continue to uncover its secrets. The Olmecs are widely regarded as the first high civilization of Central America, creating massive structures and cultural traditions that influenced later societies, including the Maya. The Maya civilization was built on Olmec foundations, particularly in astronomy and calendrical systems. For the Maya, the Milky Way represented a cosmic road to the underworld, Xibalba. The Maya long count calendar, tracking a 5,125-year cycle, was inherited from Olmec symbolism, reflecting a deep understanding of celestial cycles integrated into daily life. Archaeoastronomers have documented the Maya's astronomical brilliance, from precise calendrical systems to architectural alignments. For example, at Chichen Itza, the equinox creates a striking shadow effect that makes a serpent appear to descend the pyramid steps, showing the Mayas' inherited and perfected astronomical knowledge. The web of conspiracy theories. While the Olmecs are widely recognized as the mother civilization of Mesoamerica, their complex art, colossal heads, and enigmatic symbols have fueled centuries of speculation. Beyond archaeological evidence, some theories suggest extraordinary or external influences on Olmec origins, claims of African ancestry, Chinese contact, or connections to the mythic Jaredites of the Book of Mormon. These ideas capture public imagination but are highly controversial and often criticized as ethnocentric, downplaying the ingenuity of indigenous peoples. The overwhelming majority of specialists in Mesoamerican history, archaeology, and linguistics reject such claims. Peer-reviewed studies show that the Olmecs developed their symbols, agricultural systems, and cultural traditions independently. There is no reliable evidence of influence from other continents. Historical claims of African connections date back to the 19th century. José Melgar argued that its features indicated African ancestry. In the early 20th century, Leo Wiener repeated similar claims, and later Afrocentrists like Ivan van Sertima suggested links to the Man people of West Africa. However, these ideas lack support from archaeology, genetics, or linguistics. Genetic studies reinforce the Olmecs' indigenous origins. A 2018 analysis of mitochondrial DNA from two Olmec individuals, one from San Lorenzo and one from Loma del Zapote, showed that both belong to haplogroup A, which is common among Native American populations. This confirms that the Olmecs were genetically rooted in the Americas, with no connection to Africa, despite superficial claims based on sculpture. Some have also argued for Old World influence on Olmec glyphs and artifacts. Constantine Samuel Rafinesque once proposed links between Maya writing and Libyco-Berber symbols, while Leo Wiener suggested that Arabized black Africans shaped early Mesoamerican culture. Betty Meggers and Mike Hsu proposed Chinese influence, citing stylistic similarities in jade or alleged characters on Levanta celts. Others have suggested Jaredites from the Book of Mormon or Nordic connections, inspired by bearded figures on monuments like Levanta Stela III. None of these claims holds up under scholarly scrutiny. The Olmec glyphs remain mostly undeciphered, and no writing system shows connections to Africa, China, or Europe. Cranial analyses like those of Andrzej Wiercinski are widely criticized for forcing New World populations into outdated Old World racial categories. Likewise, supposed stylistic or physical resemblances, beards, aquiline noses, decorative motifs, show artistic conventions, symbolic ideals, or stylization, not actual migration. The story of Olmec origins is therefore as much about resisting unfounded speculation as it is about celebrating indigenous innovation. Their colossal heads, monumental architecture, and sophisticated art are remarkable achievements, all created locally, without exotic explanations. This clarity raises another question. If the Olmecs built such a mighty civilization, what happened to them? The fall of an ancient civilization. Around 900 BCE, something unusual occurred at San Lorenzo. Workers began deliberately dismantling the city's own monuments. Colossal heads that had stood for centuries were defaced or buried. Thrones were damaged, sacred carvings interred, and elite palaces abandoned. There is no evidence of invasion, warfare, or foreign conquest. The Olmecs were undoing their own political center from within. This was not a sudden collapse, but a slow unraveling shaped by political change, environmental stress, and cultural diffusion. Unlike later civilizations such as the Maya, the Olmecs left no written explanation for their decline. What we know comes entirely from archaeology, settlement patterns, monument production, environmental data, and trade routes. These sources show that Olmec civilization did not vanish, it gradually dissolved. Ecological vulnerability played a central role. The Olmec economy depended heavily on maize, squash, and sweet potatoes. While sufficient in stable conditions, this narrow agricultural base made urban life fragile, Droughts, volcanic activity, or shifting rivers could quickly undermine food supplies and threaten population centers. San Lorenzo, the earliest major Olmec city, thrived for centuries. Excavations led by Anne Cyphers reveal that around 900 BCE, the city underwent dramatic changes. Elite residences were abandoned, monument carving ceased, and colossal heads and thrones were deliberately broken, defaced, or buried. There is no evidence of widespread burning, massacre, or foreign conquest. The pattern points to internal political collapse, not external destruction. Cyphers argues that the dismantling of monuments showed a loss of political legitimacy. In Mesoamerican societies, rulers were closely tied to sacred symbols and monumental art. When leadership failed, monuments were often ritually terminated, destroyed intentionally rather than in chaos, a practice later seen among the Maya. Environmental stress compounded these political problems. Studies show that the river systems feeding San Lorenzo shifted during this period, leading to flooding, erosion, and soil exhaustion. Michael Coe noted that the Olmec heartland was ecologically fragile, meaning even minor climate changes could disrupt food production and population stability. The decline of San Lorenzo did not end Olmec culture. As the city waned, La Venta rose to prominence around 900 BCE, retaining core Olmec artistic, religious, and ceremonial features, as well as long-distance trade networks. This continuity suggests that Olmec elites or institutions reorganized rather than disappearing entirely. Richard Deal, in The Olmecs, America's First Civilization, emphasizes that the decline was decentralization, not collapse. Political systems dissolved, but Olmec cultural frameworks diffused across Mesoamerica, influencing the Maya, Zapotec, and other emerging societies. These later cultures did not inherit Olmec civilization wholesale. They adapted its elements to new contexts. This gradual diffusion explains why Olmec symbols largely did not survive in readable form. Knowledge transmission relies on stable institutions, schools, priesthoods, and ruling dynasties. When political authority fractured, the structures preserving these symbols vanished. The symbols remained visually, but their meanings faded over generations. By 400 BCE, La Venta itself declined and was eventually abandoned, marking the end of classic Olmec culture. Descendants of the Olmecs continued to live in the region, but the civilization's cities, trade networks, and distinctive art forms ceased. As Deal notes, the Olmecs ended politically, not intellectually. Their monuments fell silent and their symbols lost their teachers, but their innovations and cultural foundations lived on, shaping the civilizations that followed. Thanks for watching. Now check out the videos popping up on screen for more unbelievable stories.